All right, well, apparently, at the same time that all of this is going on here and around the world, there was an attempt, of course, on our own president. They are saying that essentially the U.S. stepped in to stop an attempt on Putin. Of course, they write it like this, and the way that they write these things, obviously, you know, not too many people here are going to stand up for Russia or Putin, but I just think it's funny that they put so many of these descriptive words on pretty much anybody the media deems evil, right? As far as groveling, Russia begged U.S. to stop Ukraine from assassinating Putin over a plan to blow up Vlad with the kamikaze drone. Now, this is, of course, from Russia's side, so we don't know what to trust on here, but a suspected assassination plot against Vladimir Putin was dramatically halted by the U.S. after Ukraine supposedly planned to hit Vlad with a kamikaze drone, or at least this is what Moscow is claiming. It says Russian intelligence allegedly discovered a covert Kiev operation looking to eliminate the tyrant at the Navy Day Parade in St. Petersburg on July 28th. Now, imagine this. Say if there's any truth to this at all during that Navy Day Parade on July 28th, if something like this happened, a drone actually flew in and took Putin out, well, what would happen right then? Would it all be over and the next person would take over and they would say, hey, world peace? Well, not exactly. There's a lot of his basically yes men that are in line to take control if he does pass, and they want to do the same thing. They're all in the same circle. In fact, he has basically surrounded himself with the same kind of people, everyone that essentially is going to do the same thing. And a lot of people believe that he's not even the top of the food chain, that he's answering to somebody else. So I don't think that if you take out any of these currently leading superpowers, that it would be any different, because then they would just insert whoever the heck they want next to continue the plan. As far as how they put groveling and begging, they're basically saying that they were begging the U.S. Obviously, that makes us feel really good, but was that really what happened? I don't personally believe the media about what exactly happened here, but I do believe that they would probably try to take it out. It makes you think about all of the attempts on the lives of our leaders. Who is really running the show right now? Are they trying to basically shake up the entire world? Well, it's working. You've got riots in the UK. You, of course, have massive unhappiness in the United States with who is running the show. Currently, we are at the edge of our own civil conflict. And then, of course, you have all of these other countries that are at war. It says that Russia and the U.S. would instantly face an uncontrollable conflict with a nuclear World War III, all but certain to happen, Rabkov said, because Putin's panicked Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Rabkov described the alleged plot as madness, as he told Russian state TV Rossiya 1 such an attack would plunge the world into chaos. The Navy Day Parade was attended by the 71-year-old dictator, of course, and his defense minister, Andrei Bulasov. Now, it says Moscow claimed to have uncovered secret intel that shows the two men were being targeted by a Ukrainian assassin or assassins. So as far as this goes, there is just so much out there that we don't know what to believe. But it's like there's constantly something happening. We've had multiple world leaders either be attempted at or actually be taken out just in the last year and a half. So somebody is making some serious moves to shake up our world. We are literally at the precipice of World War III with Israel and Iran, with China and Taiwan, with, of course, even Venezuela and Guyana, and, of course, North and South Korea. All of these things are lining up to happen at the same time, on top of natural disasters, which just happen to be lining up for 2024 and 2025 as well, like solar events and everything else that is happening. So this is just absolutely nuts. We don't know what to believe with it, but the fact that Western media is basically portraying it that Russia's groveling and begging at our doorstep to basically save them, I don't know what to believe. No evidence has been shared yet about the circumstances around the Russian intelligence. Respected Russian editor Alexei Venediktov also said that the Russians were concerned over the noise of a Ukrainian plot. Just over 2 weeks before the event, Belousov took the intelligence straight from the U.S., alleges known TV propagandist Olga Skabiev. Now, they say that the defense minister called the U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin to have a genuinely tough conversation about the assassination belief. It says the TV presenter added that Russian Defense Minister Andrei Belousov called the Pentagon himself for the first time, and he said something that made the U.S. Secretary Lloyd Austin squirm. If Kiev's operation had happened, it would have guaranteed to plunge Russia and the USA into a phase of uncontrollable conflict. So did we just barely miss a World War III, that the next person who would take Putin's spot essentially plunges into the Dark Ages? We don't know. But again, this is what is being said. So we'll touch back on this. We've got a lot more to cover in a short amount of time. But make sure to go check out marfooglenews.com/EMP. A lot of the crazy things that are going on right now, this is one thing that you can actually prevent. If you want your cars to actually run past an EMP, go over and check out the device EMP Shield. This actually protects and keeps your car running through multiple EMP strikes if we ever have an adversary do something so crazy, or a solar event like a coronal mass ejection or a Carrington level event. So go over and check it out. 10 minutes, you'll have it in your car. And again, anybody can do it. You don't have to be a mechanic. It takes a few minutes, and you know that your car will run. You can also get it for your trucks, motorcycles, boats, homes, and, of course, RVs. marfooglenews.com/EMP. Make sure to use the code MARF. You'll get $50 off per device, and you'll be helping our independent channel. All of this is done just with the few of us and the help of our wonderful mods. All right, let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine, but man, that is a very ominous story if it's true, because that means we were literally on the brink, and it sounds like that would have been a very massive nightmare scenario.
Well, and here's the thing. There's going to be two camps of people that either they absolutely believe it, because right now, this is what's so crazy is now many people are actually believing, they're so distrustful of not only the gov, but of our mainstream media. If our mainstream media says something, then they believe the opposite. So and a lot of people believed Russia at first about the pipeline and about all of these other things. You can't put Russia up on a pedestal like they're awesome and they're great. But at the same time, we've had kind of that narrative over the last 6-8 months, especially with Tucker not only going and talking to Putin and saying basically our media is lying to us and Putin's not exactly doing what they say he's doing. People don't know what to believe. But then there's hardcore people that will always be like, that's Russia. I mean, heck, if you're old enough, then you probably go, Russia's the enemy, period. You can't look past that. But as far as right now, we don't know who is lying to us. But we do know very simple things, like there's a group that is basically running the world, and this group is actually a few hundred people that have basically met up, and all of these people have been making decisions for world governments. We know them as forums or groups or summer camps in some cases, but these groups are making decisions for all of us. Now, with Russia and all of these things, with the stock market crash that just happened, it's funny that essentially every stock went down, but guess what went up? The military-industrial complex. In previous instances, the oligarchs that are above Putin, above JB, above T-Man, above all of the leaders of the world, the oligarchs above them, they have basically funded both sides of wars throughout history. If you look at the fellas, and if you look at of course, the Smiths and the Rosensteins and Guildensterns and all of those names that nobody knows, the people that their actual net worth isn't listed because they're so rich, those people and the rocks that are colored black, all of these groups, they kind of work in the shadows. And you're supposed to be called crazy if you believe that these people are really doing this, but that's exactly what's happening in my opinion. But as far as Russia and all of these things that are going on, it's hard to understand what camp to be in, especially when we so don't believe our own media that when they say stuff like this, we believe the opposite. I just want to point out, and I always point this out, when they start out an article or even a headline groveling, I would love to hear the actual audio of that call. Were they groveling? Or are they just putting that in there? When they put such descriptors in there, they're actually painting a picture for you. They also call him a dictator. They do these things, and they've been doing them for years. They do it for a former president. They do it for Elon Musk. They put these words in, so before you even start the article, you have a thought train actually already there. These are subliminal, essentially brainwashing tactics. So, again, we don't know what's going on. Dex, tactical nuclear weapons already there in Ukraine. This is, of course, according to Russia. What can we believe?
Exactly. So coming from the state TV, one of the talking heads on there, the head of the Center for Political Information, a pro-Kremlin think tank, said that in addition to the fact that they have F-16s, they also believe that the West has given UKR tactical nukes. They're not providing any evidence of it. They're merely speculating, but at the same time, this is the position or the messaging from the Russian side. They believe that now because there's F-16s there are nukes there. Their example was, hey, they announced the F-16s and now they have them, and they're going to eventually announce the tacticals, and they're probably already there. If they aren't there as part of the F-16s in concert with that. So that's basically what they're suggesting. Again, there's no actual evidence of this, but it's the sentiment coming from Russia. And this is interesting because Russia's the one who's actually put the tacticals on the front line. They moved them down there in drills, right there in southern Russia and also in Belarus.
Yeah. Someone said essentially that they didn't believe the U.S. They believe Russia or Putin over the U.S., right? Where are we in a country that's the situation right now, where people are believing Putin over our own leadership? That's crazy to me. But that's where we're at. At the same time, people are so contradictory on their beliefs right now. They'll be a patriot, but at the same time, they absolutely hate the people running it. If you question what the United States is doing, or if you question what this is doing, well, then you're not patriotic enough. But yet, I like I said the other day, I think the most patriotic thing that you could do is question what the hell your country is doing. That's how it's supposed to be. We should be questioning what is being done above us. That should never stop. We should care about the people, not the people above. And then North Korea says German entry into UN monitoring force is a bid to create an Asian NATO. Well, again, there is the Asian NATO, of course, but they are saying that North Korea said that Germany's entry into the U.S.-led UN border monitoring force on the Korean Peninsula would raise tensions, accusing Washington of creating an Asian version of NATO. State News KCNA reported on Tuesday. Germany, a close U.S. ally, on Friday became the latest member of the United Nations Command, a group that helps police the heavily fortified border between South Korea and North Korea, and has committed to defend the South in the event of war. So this is, again, another change. Now Germany is jumping in and saying that they are going to defend South Korea. Well, why are they doing that? I have said that I believe North Korea is going to be the first thing that pops off in this chain of countries that are all now currently working together, and they're moving supplies and weapons and troops all between them. And I think that North Korea will be the trigger for the weapon that's used for World War III. I think that it is going to be the first. If the Middle East doesn't pop it off first. The U.S. is attempting to revive the function of the UN command, which should have been extinct in the last century. This is aimed at turning the UN command into the second Asian version of NATO, a North Korean foreign ministry spokesperson said in a statement by KCNA. German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius said last week that the move was evidence of Berlin's strong belief that European security was closely linked to the security in the Indo-Pacific region. Dex, as far as, Germany now essentially saying that they're going to join in and protect South Korea. What do you think about that? I mean, it seems to me like these are obvious signs that something's about to go down.
Well, yeah, certainly they're not wrong in saying that they believe there's a nation NATO being built, because there is. I mean, look at everything. Look at Japan over in meeting with NATO in Europe. Look at NATO members participating and helping Japan and now South Korea and others in the Pacific. It's happening. It just may not be formally on paper yet, but they're not wrong to suggest that. And this is just evidence, more evidence of it.
Somebody said Germany and Japan, ? Yeah. And I mean, the U.S. and Japan are really tight right now. They're creating these things. Japan is fully militarized. Their military is just buzzing right now. I've been talking to friends and family the last week. I've been sending so many links, it's not even funny. I've been trying to break down basically 2 years of what's been going on and being able to tell somebody who doesn't know anything about it. Luckily, I've had some family members and friends that all of a sudden have turned on a dime. Now they're like, please, I have time to look at the links. It was after I sent one link, they were like, oh, I do have time. Please send me more. Because they heard something from a friend that actually triggered them to think critically. They heard something basically in a family setting from somebody who was in the military. So now all of a sudden they're going, wait, all of those things we all were talking about are now coming true. As far as all of the stuff that's going on in the Middle East, now they're seeing that they're talking about attacks and all of these things going down, about the critical infrastructure that we've talked about for 5 or 6 years in this community. All of these things are going down. Now we're telling friends and family members that they need to do this. Now people are going to start to listen to us. I'm telling you, you're going to go from crazy to consultant. I'm not joking you. A lot of you that have been knowing this and been telling and people roll their eyes at you, you're going to go from crazy to consultant. Just watch. They're going to go, how did you know this? It's simple. It's right in front of it. People were distracted. The real story is right in front of you. It's super obvious. It's the most obvious answer is usually the truth. And that has been holding true right now. They're preparing for a massive war. How people are not seeing it, again, they will. They will very soon. And then we have the U.S. must prepare to fight China and North Korea at the same time. Which this one in itself is, again, two, I guess, bigger powers. And Germany is joining. Dex, Germany is now joining South Korea. What did they get? Did they get a memo?
Yeah, exactly. Look, this is coming. This is further analysis of that U.S. Commission on the National Defense Strategy that we had reported on a week ago that talked about, lots of the deficiencies that we have. And one of them had said, hey, they need to be able to have multiple theaters in the Pacific, in Europe, and the Middle East, which, man, it's like, have they been watching our show? We've only been talking about that for like the last 2 years. But nonetheless, when you dive in deeper and you think about just the Pacific, and I think they're even short-sighted on this, they're saying that basically if you go to war with China over Taiwan, North Korea is going to get involved with South Korea. If you go to war or if North Korea starts something with South Korea, then China will use that as the opportunity to go into Taiwan. What I've been saying all along is that it's going to be both North Korea and the Philippines, because that actually splits us into two different areas of the Pacific with Taiwan in the middle. So now we have to cover 3 fronts, and that's going to make it even more difficult. They didn't go that far into this example where they were diving deep through this report, but just the whole notion that, a teeter-totter with Korea equals China and Taiwan, or Taiwan and China against or U.S. supporting Taiwan against China in a conflict equals Kim invading South Korea.
And by the way, Magnus said, so is EMP shield going to protect us from military invasions and from everything else? You're not going to have to worry about an invasion. It already happened. Look at the data, the startling data. There's Homeland Security websites. These are two of the links that I just sent. EMP shield is in the case of EMP or a solar event, both everyone is now concerned about because we're in solar cycle 25. And have pretty much every adversary has the ability. And recently, they've been shipping EMP and electronic warfare. It is now common sense that technology has evolved, and now EMP is one of the most likely ways that we will get attacked. But here's how I think it would go. It wouldn't be an invasion. You're the one who has to defend yourself against a military invasion and these things. That's why you got to prep. That's why if you've been hearing about this and knowing for 6 years, then you should be closer than the person who just found out yesterday. EMP shield is a tool, but everybody has to get their other stuff in line right now. Because as far as it won't be an invasion like you think, it's not going to be Red Dawn where they're dropping in parachutes. Look at the data of who is coming in right now. Look at the video of 18 to 25-year-olds coming in. Look at the farmland that was bought right next to military bases. Put two and two together right now. Look at the actual data by Homeland Security. Look at the stuff that FBI is quietly putting on their white papers. Look at what the Pentagon is saying. Look at the stories that they're putting out right out in front of us, and so they can say, well, we told you. And then look at the people who will prosper, even if we do go down for 1 or 2 years. If everything is completely broke down, then they can build it up again with other rich people or whoever else is in charge. They can build the earth however they want. If you haven't heard, the people at the very top, they have an idea for Earth in just a few years that is so drastically different from this Earth, and how we are monitored, how we spend, how we don't spend, how we even live, how we eat. All of this is going to be changed in a few years. How? When we are based on a system of oil and all of this, but yet we're going to electricity and we're going to get completely off the petrodollar? How do you do that without some sort of major reset button? So as far as it won't be an invasion, it's already happened. You have a number go from 3,000 to 12,000 to 28,000 in a couple months, and then 35,000. You've got a lot of folks just from one single country. And they say it's the fastest growing number from one country. Is it because they're just trying to get away from their horrible country? I don't know. Those buzz cuts and camo shorts kind of throw me off a little bit. So people in place, power goes out. Power goes out, people in place, and all of a sudden you've got yourself a closer story to the movie Dragon Day. It was a sort of a bad B movie or a lower budget, but the plot, I thought that was more sound than anything else. Dragon Day, if you haven't seen that's what I think it would be more like. A mix of Red Dawn and Dragon Day. And people are oblivious. Some people are asking questions, but not everybody. There is a real and growing risk of conflict between the United States and China over Taiwan, and the Pentagon already considers war with China as its most important pacing threat for prioritizing future military capabilities and resources. Contrary to conventional assumptions, however, it is unlikely that such a conflict would be contained to the Taiwan Strait. They don't even argue that this is going to happen. They're arguing how big it's going to get and where it's going to be. Meanwhile, in Europe with Russia and all of their other allies, they're already preparing their citizens. The USA, because of our pride, doesn't want us to think, and because of the long time thought that we are safe because we have oceans on either side, which used to protect us. We used to be geographically safe from invasion, especially from places like China, because it was a very far distance. We had a badass Navy and badass satellites and everything else that we could see them coming a million miles away. We could stop them where they're at. Well, what if, I don't know, something happens to where they could literally work along with multiple countries, have hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people, millions over just the last few years. Say if they got the right person in power, millions of people coming in and set up in different cities across the country. All of that wouldn't be needed anymore. You don't need to go across an ocean when you're already in the backyard. Not even in the backyard. When you're already in the house. So, yeah, this is... and the scary part is why is this lining up directly for the next few months? Like that's the scariest part, because that also tells you that it may be, well, that it's more likely that everything has been planned out for a very long time. Now, Kamala, of course now the new candidate, picked her VP, and her VP is even more far off to one direction than she is. Dex, this is actually a big deal to a lot of people, because they're like, wow, this guy's even more extreme.
Yeah, there's plenty to be found about his positions and what he's done on the website, or just go research on X. We're not going to get into all of that, but he's definitely been on, like her, very much on one side and very far on that side. So, but now we know. Now we know who it is. People can understand more about what their choices are, and they can decide the decisions they're going to have to make during the selection process.
So, and it's Tim Walz is going to be the running mate. You can just see how this is going to line up. And of course, if depending on how you look at this, you're going to have a really great 4 years, or you're going to be pulling your hair out. We're going to cover everything that's going on in the Middle East. There's so much more. Join us over on Marfoogle TV. We're going to update you on even more emergent news. They are talking about the attack. There's now more to show that they are actually evacuating. There's all sorts of things moving around right now in the Middle East, which very well is going to trigger an escalation. We'll talk about what they're saying and, of course, what they're doing. So join us over on our sister channel, Marfoogle TV, in just a few minutes. If you're in chat, just stay there. Of course, if you are watching the replay, all you have to do is click here. A full bibliography for today's show is available down in the description. Make sure to click that and go check it out.